Long before modern gynecology became a medical specialty, 3 enslaved black women were forced to suffer unimaginable pain in the name of science. They were young, they were vulnerable, and they had no control over what would be done to their bodies. In the 1840s, a physician named Dr. J. Marion Sims, celebrated by many as the father of modern gynecology, built his legacy by experimenting on black enslaved women without anesthesia, without consent, and without mercy. This is episode 2 of my series on exploited bodies, the history of medical crimes and injustice against black women. Today we shine light on Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsey, the mothers of modern gynecology, and the brutal history and medicine they tried to erase. Today we travel back to the 1840s, a time when black women in American South were not only enslaved, but routinely used as medical test subjects without rights, protection, or even the basic dignity of bodily autonomy. During this era, enslaved women were expected to bear children over and over, not for their own families, but for the economic profit of their enslavers. When complications occurred, white physicians blamed the women themselves, instead of recognizing the brutal conditions, lack of proper care, and the physical toll of forced childbirth. One of those physicians was Dr. J. Marion Sims. Like many white doctors in this era, Dr. Sims embraced the racist belief that black women felt less pain, a myth weaponized for generations to justify medical abuse. And with this lie as his foundation, Dr. Sims set out to solve postpartum complications. But his experiments were not acts of innovation. They were acts of violence. He cut, probed, stitched, and operated on black women, subjecting them to repeated procedures that left them traumatized, scarred, and fighting to survive. Despite extensive research, very little is known about Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsey. Their lives were not recorded with care, compassion, or even basic humanity. Their stories were nearly erased from history. No photographs, no documented personal details, no preserved memories of who they were as daughters, friends, or young women. This silence was not accidental. It reflects the brutal reality of enslavement, where black women's lives were treated as property, their personhood stripped away, their voices ignored, and their bodies exploited. What little history we do know comes from scattered plantation ledgers, fragments of medical records, and clinical journal entries written by Dr. Sims himself, documents that recorded their suffering, but not their humanity. Anarcha Westcott, referred to in records as a little mulatto girl. She was born on the Westcott Plantation in Montgomery, Alabama, the fourth of 5 children. Her exact age when she became pregnant is unknown. Sources estimate she was between the age of 13 and 17 years old. Her childbirth was horrific. She endured 3 days of labor without any form of pain relief, which left her with severe vaginal and rectal tears. Anarcha developed both a vesicovaginal fistula, an abnormal opening connecting the bladder and the vagina, and a rectovaginal fistula connecting the rectum and the vagina. Dr. Sims wrote that Anarcha had one of the worst cases he had ever seen. In his eyes, she became the perfect surgical experiment subject, and not a young girl in pain. Lucy's last name remained unknown. She was enslaved on a plantation in Macon County under Tom Zimmerman. Enslaved people often carried their enslaver's surname. She was around 18 years old and described in written records as severely ill. A few months after giving birth, Lucy developed a vesicovaginal fistula, along with fever, infection, and unbearable pain. She was the first woman subjected to Dr. Sims' experimental fistula surgery. Betsey, enslaved on a plantation in Lowndes County with the surname of her enslaver, Harris. She was about 16 years old. She had given birth only a month earlier and, like the others, developed a fistula. The women suffered symptoms that were devastating and humiliating. Their injuries caused extreme suffering, an uncontrollable leakage of urine and feces, and because of this, their enslavers isolated and shamed them, keeping them away from other enslaved people. Because the women were ill and unable to perform the same physical labors as others, their enslavers, frustrated and concerned about lost productivity, eventually turned to Dr. Sims for help, believing he could cure them. Because they were considered property, Dr. Sims began experimenting on their bodies without their consent. Starting in 1845, Dr. Sims performed dozens of experimental surgeries in a small makeshift hospital behind his Montgomery home. The women were naked, restrained, and operated on in full view of Dr. Sims and other physicians who watched these procedures like demonstrations. Even after the ether anesthesia became available in 1846, Dr. Sims refused to use it on enslaved women, still standing by the racist medical myth that black people did not feel pain the same way white patients did. This decision forced black women to endure some of the most painful procedures imaginable while fully conscious. His procedures were invasive, painful, and repeated for months and even years. During this time, Dr. Sims trained Anarcha, Betsey, and Lucy to assist him during surgeries. After being experimented on, they were forced to help with later procedures and to care for one another during recovery, turning victims into medical assistants within his experimental system. One of the earliest and most horrific procedures involved Lucy. According to Dr. Sims' own medical journals, the operation lasted over an hour. Lucy screamed in agony throughout the procedure, yet she was forced to remain on the examination table. She nearly died from sepsis caused by Dr. Sims' unsanitary tools and methods. Rather than acknowledge the torture he inflicted, Dr. Sims wrote that Lucy bore the operation with great bravery. Dr. Sims documented Betsey's condition extensively, writing about how her bladder was destroyed and her case seemed incurable. But rather than treat her with humanity, he saw an opportunity. He was eager to experiment, determined to test surgical techniques on her body in hopes of finding a cure, all while using unsterilized instruments and techniques that never had been used on a human body before. Anarcha endured over 30 surgeries, making her one of the most experimented on women in American history. She was repeatedly restrained on the operating table as Dr. Sims tested new tools, new stitches, and new techniques, often improvising on her body in real time. After years of failed attempts, Anarcha eventually became the first successful fistula repair. Dr. Sims took the credit. Anarcha received no recognition, no compensation, and no acknowledgement of her suffering. The experiments did not end with these 3 young women. Historical evidence shows that Dr. Sims used at least 10 enslaved women as surgical test subjects during this period. Unlike Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsey, most were never documented in detail, another reflection of how little value was placed on their lives. However, one of Sims' former collaborators, Dr. Nathan Bozeman, later identified 4 additional black women who went under these dangerous, non-consensual procedures. Delia, around 23 years old, Julia McDuffie, around 20 years old, Lavinia Bouderant, around 13 years old, and Anne McRee, around 16 years old. Despite his unethical and horrific actions, J. Marion Sims rose to national fame. He founded the first women's hospital in the United States, served as president of the American Medical Association, and was honored with statues and memorials for more than a century. Meanwhile, the women whose bodies built his reputation were nearly erased from history. Yet without their suffering, fistula repair surgery may have never existed, women reproductive care would have been delayed by decades, and millions of women worldwide might have not benefited from modern gynecology. However, in recent years, the silence of these women's scars is finally being uncovered. Activists, historians, and descendants have demanded justice for the women whose bodies were used as experimentation sites. Their calls for justice have led to tangible change. In 2018, Marion Sims' statue was removed from Central Park. New monuments now honor Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsey, the true pioneers of modern gynecology. Books, research, public art, and advocacy efforts focus on telling their story.
It was an early morning strike. The statue of Dr. Marion Sims taken down, carted off in the back of a Parks Department truck. Sims losing his choice perch at 103rd and 5th Avenue after Mayor de Blasio's Monuments Commission determined the good that he did. He was known as the Father of Gynecology, the inventor of the speculum for female exams, was outweighed by the bad. He performed experimental surgery on female slaves without anesthesia. The debate continued even after Sims was carted off.
He was the father of American obstetrics, okay? Their whole reasoning is that he operated on 12 slave women. Well, he was a doctor in 1845, Birmingham, Alabama. What else was he supposed to do? Not operate on them and let them die?
I'm thrilled. I read the horrible story about what he did to these black women in the South. Do we have a statue of Joseph Mengele in this park?
This change was not about erasing history. It was about telling the truth and restoring dignity to the women whose suffering was ignored for far too long. This is the story of Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsey, three young women whose suffering helped shape the foundation of modern gynecology. They were never treated as patients. They were enslaved, vulnerable, and viewed as less than human, forced to endure agony that should have never been inflicted on anyone. Yet history ignored them, recorded them as footnotes, and tried to erase them entirely. Their stories expose the brutal truth of medical experimentation on enslaved people and show why ethical accountability in medicine remains essential. Their legacy continues to shape urgent conversations about race, gender, consent, and reproductive justice. Black women's bodies have long been treated as battlegrounds for medical progress, and the scars of that history still shape trust and health outcomes today. Even now, medical racism is far from over. In the United States, Black mothers are more than 3 times as likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than white mothers. They're more likely to receive inadequate care, be uninsured, and give birth in under-resourced hospitals. And the racist belief that Black people feel less pain still influences medical research and patient treatment. Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsey are called the mothers of modern gynecology, not because they chose to, but because they were exploited, violated, and dehumanized. They deserve remembrance, they deserve gratitude, and they deserve their rightful place in medical history. To Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsey, your bodies brought forth changes that the world desperately needed. Your suffering built a bridge for safer childbirth, life-saving surgeries, and better health for women and girls of all races. We honor you. We thank you for the lives you touched, the breakthroughs you made possible, and the legacy you never lived to see. I pray that each of you continue to rest in peace. No story should be forgotten, no voice should go unheard. Until the next time, I'm Lock Jewel, and thank you for watching Shades of Crime. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And remember to pray. God's listening.